where I stalk a bad guy. And he goes, "Who are you?" And I say, "I'm the Lone Ranger. I'm the Captain Video."
For years, Robert Urich captivated audiences as the heroic tough guy, the kind you'd trust in a crisis. Yet, behind that charismatic facade was a man quietly battling far more than on-screen villains. Alongside him was Heather Menzies, a fellow actor and unwavering wife, whose grace and strength became as essential to his story as any role he played. What unfolded between them was a life touched by love, resilience, and an unexpected tragedy. Today, we're telling the story of the life, careers, and the awful ending and tragic deaths of Robert Urich and his wife. Let's start from the very beginning. Early life and background. Born on December 19, 1946 in the small industrial town of Toronto, Ohio, not the Canadian metropolis, but a modest Midwestern community nestled along the Ohio River, Robert Michael Urich was the youngest of two sons, born to John Paul Urich and Cecilia Monica Halpate, who were of Rusin and Slovak descent. Growing up in an Eastern Orthodox Christian household, Robert was not only academically capable, but also athletically gifted. At Toronto High School, he quickly became known as a natural leader, earning respect both in the classroom and on the football field. His determination and charisma made him a standout in his small-town environment, and those traits earned him a coveted football scholarship to Florida State University, or FSU, in Tallahassee. At FSU, Urich played center for the Seminoles during the early 1960s, a time when the team was still establishing its national reputation. It was here that his path crossed with the future Hollywood icon, Burt Reynolds. This fateful encounter was a foreshadowing of a great Hollywood career. Although football brought him to Florida State, Urich's intellectual curiosity soon guided him toward the communications department. He earned his bachelor's degree in radio and television communications. He then pursued a master's degree in broadcast research and management at Michigan State University. This dual foundation, one foot in athletics, the other in academia, gave Urich a rare combination of physical presence and intellectual depth that set him apart in Hollywood years later. After completing his education, he landed a sales job at WGN-TV in Chicago, earning a modest $150 a week. But the allure of acting proved irresistible. He began taking on roles in local theater and small TV appearances, juggling rehearsals and shoots around his daytime responsibilities. Eventually, his secret was uncovered, and WGN let him go for moonlighting as an actor. Urich once quipped in a later interview, "They said I had to choose between television and theater, and I chose the one that didn't pay." Despite the setback, he wasn't deterred. If anything, the dismissal propelled him fully into the uncertain world of entertainment. Around this time, he also worked briefly as a television weatherman, a stint he would later describe with bemused affection. "I didn't really know what I was doing, but I looked the part," he joked, already hinting at the self-awareness and humility that would come to define his public image. By the early 1970s, Urich had moved to Los Angeles, determined to carve out a niche for himself in a notoriously unforgiving industry. He had no major roles, no family connections in the business, and very little money. But what he did have was an unshakable work ethic, a grounding in reality thanks to his humble beginnings, and a drive that had once made him a football standout and honor student. In the eyes of many, he was just another actor hustling for a break. But for those who knew where he came from, Robert Urich was a man already well on his way to becoming unforgettable. So, how did he get his big break? Breaking into Hollywood. At the time, Hollywood was brimming with hopefuls, and Urich was stepping into a city full of both opportunity and indifference. But what he lacked in connections, he made up for in discipline. He took acting classes, attended casting calls, and patiently endured the grind of rejection that every actor faces at the beginning. His persistence paid off quickly. In 1972, Urich landed his first on-screen role in an episode of The FBI, a crime drama series produced by Quinn Martin and known for launching the careers of many television actors. The show, which aired on ABC, was in its later seasons by then, but for Urich, the appearance was a major breakthrough. It gave him a legitimate television credit, a foot in the door, and most importantly, exposure to industry professionals who could see his potential. Only a year later, in 1973, he scored a leading part in the television adaptation of Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice. The original 1969 film had been a provocative and critically acclaimed exploration of shifting sexual mores and suburban relationships. The TV version tried to tame the content for primetime audiences, which likely contributed to its brief run. Despite its short lifespan, the series gave Urich a regular place on national television, allowing him to showcase his dramatic and comedic range in a high-profile project. It also helped cement his reputation as a dependable and compelling leading man, qualities that would define his career. That same year, Urich made a bold leap onto the silver screen with his feature film debut in Magnum Force, the 1973 sequel to Clint Eastwood's iconic Dirty Harry. Directed by Ted Post and written by John Milius and Michael Cimino, Magnum Force tackled the controversial theme of vigilante justice within the police force. Urich played Officer Davis, one of the motorcycle cops implicated in a series of extrajudicial killings. Though not the lead, his role was significant. He shared screen time with Clint Eastwood, one of the biggest box office stars of the decade, and held his own in a gritty, high-stakes narrative.
Well, you shouldn't be on the street these days if you can't shoot well. Killers don't make allowances. You're in big trouble.
This role was his first real demonstration of dramatic film credibility. Urich would later reflect on the matter. Something like this: being on set with Clint was a masterclass in how to command a screen without saying much. There's a kind of energy he brings into a scene, and being able to meet that energy changed everything for me. The performance caught the attention of casting agents and producers. By 1974, Urich was no longer just another hopeful actor trying to make ends meet in Los Angeles. He was a rising star. Rise in television. Having already made a strong impression with his appearance in Magnum Force and his earlier television credits, it was a well-timed recommendation from a key ally, Burt Reynolds, that truly changed the trajectory of Robert Urich's career. Reynolds, who had remained a loyal supporter since their time together at Florida State University, played an instrumental role in connecting Urich with powerhouse producer Aaron Spelling. At the time, Spelling was one of the most influential figures in television, known for shaping hits like The Mod Squad and Starsky and Hutch. In 1975, when Spelling was casting for his latest high-octane crime drama SWAT, Reynolds personally vouched for Urich's potential, telling Spelling, "This guy is the real deal. Give him a shot." Urich was cast as Officer Jim Street, the youngest and most impulsive member of the Special Weapons and Tactics team, led by Steve Forrest's Lieutenant Dan Hondo Harrelson. SWAT premiered on ABC in February 1975 and quickly became a hit. The show's signature theme music by Barry DeVorzone and its intense action sequences captivated viewers and catapulted Urich into stardom. Yet despite its ratings success, SWAT was not without controversy. Critics and parent groups expressed concern over what they considered an excessive amount of violence for network television. This criticism intensified as the show progressed, particularly in the wake of heightened scrutiny on media violence in American households following congressional hearings and academic studies on the subject. ABC ultimately pulled the plug after just 2 seasons, with the final episode airing in April 1976. Undeterred, Urich pivoted smoothly from action drama to comedy, demonstrating the range that would become a hallmark of his career. In 1977, he took on a recurring role in Soap, a daringly irreverent sitcom created by Susan Harris. The show was a satirical take on daytime soap operas and featured an ensemble cast including Billy Crystal, Katherine Helmond, and Richard Mulligan. Urich played Peter Campbell, a handsome tennis pro entangled in a web of affairs, including one with the show's lead, Jessica Tate, played by Helmond, and her daughter.
Peter! Peter!
Though his character was short-lived, since Peter is famously killed off early in the series, Urich's performance showcased his comic timing and screen presence in a genre far removed from the gunfights and tactical missions of SWAT. His brief but memorable role helped him avoid typecasting. Later that same year, Urich landed another leading role in a primetime series, Tabitha, a spin-off of the beloved 1960s sitcom Bewitched. In Tabitha, Lisa Hartman played the now-grown daughter of Samantha and Darren Stevens, who inherited her mother's magical abilities. Urich was cast as Paul Thurston, a television news anchor, and Tabitha's love interest, bringing charm and comedic polish to the role. The show aired on ABC and premiered in September 1977, but it struggled to find an audience in a competitive time slot and failed to recapture the whimsical magic that made Bewitched a household staple. After just 13 episodes, Tabitha was canceled in January 1978. While Tabitha did not deliver the long-term success Urich or the network had hoped for, the experience was valuable in broadening his acting repertoire. By this point, Urich had proven himself capable of taking on a diverse range of roles: action hero, comedic suitor, and romantic lead. As the 1980s approached, bigger roles and deeper stories awaited him, setting the stage for his peak career. Breakthrough with Vegas. In 1978, Robert Urich landed the leading role of private investigator Dan Tanna in the groundbreaking television series Vegas, a crime drama set amid the neon lights and seedy glamour of Las Vegas. Produced by the legendary Aaron Spelling, already renowned for hits like Charlie's Angels and Starsky and Hutch, Vegas was not only one of the first television series to be filmed entirely on location in Las Vegas, but also an ambitious gamble to inject fresh life into the TV detective genre. Spelling believed that the city's glitz, combined with a charismatic lead, would capture America's imagination. To fully embody the role of the tough, street-smart, yet gentlemanly Dan Tanna, Urich committed to a dramatic physical transformation. He bulked up by 40 pounds, increasing his weight from 180 to 220 pounds to give his character a more imposing and authoritative presence. Urich portrayed Tanna not as a brawny thug, but as a thinking man's detective who could take on criminals in a city full of temptations and violence, yet remain morally grounded. Tanna, a former Vietnam War vet, operated out of a converted warehouse behind the Desert Inn, drove a flashy red 1957 Ford Thunderbird convertible, and was often seen navigating Vegas in its heyday, rubbing shoulders with casino owners, showgirls, and mobsters alike. The show was an immediate success. Premiering on ABC on September 20, 1978, Vegas captured the zeitgeist of the late 1970s. Viewers were enthralled by its combination of high-stakes drama, action, and the backdrop of a city rarely explored on television at the time. Las Vegas became a character in its own right, with filming taking place at actual casinos like Caesar's Palace and the Desert Inn, offering a sense of authenticity that studio sets couldn't replicate. The series quickly turned Urich into a household name and pop culture icon. Critics praised Urich's performance, and his efforts were formally recognized when he received 2 Golden Globe nominations for Best Actor in a television series drama in 1979 and 1980. While he did not win, the nominations affirmed his growing stature in Hollywood. In interviews during the height of Vegas's popularity, Urich often spoke about the challenges of shooting on location, the physical demands of action sequences, and the joy he found in playing a character who, despite living in a morally ambiguous city, tried to do the right thing. Dan Tanna might live in Vegas, but he's no gambler. Urich once quipped in a 1980 interview with TV Guide, "He bets on people, on loyalty, on justice, and that's what makes him work."
Incidentally, it's hard work and tedious, and when they all had a break for lunch, I had a chance to talk with Robert Urich.
However, by its third season, Vegas began to struggle. Viewership declined as audience tastes shifted, and newer, grittier crime dramas like Hill Street Blues began to gain critical traction. ABC executives grew concerned as ratings slipped, particularly during the 1980 to 1981 season. Despite loyal fans and Urich's strong performance, Vegas was canceled in June 1981 after airing 69 episodes. The cancellation came as a disappointment to Urich, who had invested heavily in making the role his own. Still, he left the show with his reputation enhanced and his versatility as an actor widely recognized. The end of Vegas did not mark the end of Urich's rise, but rather the beginning of a new chapter. His portrayal of Dan Tana had opened doors, leading to subsequent roles in television and film,
Including the fact that Spencer for Hire might very well become a television series.
transitioned to film, and continued career. Eager to avoid the pitfalls of typecasting and determined to demonstrate that he was more than just a TV star, Urich took a calculated risk by transitioning into film. Shortly after the end of Vegas, he signed a film contract with the prestigious Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. The first fruit of this new partnership was Endangered Species, a science fiction thriller released in 1982, directed by the acclaimed Alan Rudolph. Rudolph, a protege of Robert Altman, had gained recognition for his work on character-driven films with a surreal or experimental edge. Casting Urich as the lead was seen as a departure for both actor and director. Rudolph, known for his offbeat sensibilities, and Urich, for his television-friendly appeal, were an unlikely pair. But the match worked. In Endangered Species, Urich played Reuben Castle, a burned-out New York cop who retreats to rural Colorado to escape his demons, only to uncover a series of bizarre cattle mutilations tied to a government conspiracy involving UFOs, secret weapons programs, and biological experimentation. The film offered Urich the chance to dig deeper into a character psychologically scarred and morally complex. This was a stark contrast to the clean-cut Dan Tana audiences had come to know. Set against the backdrop of Cold War paranoia and the burgeoning public fascination with UFO phenomena, Endangered Species was both timely and unconventional. It drew inspiration from real-life reports of cattle mutilations in the American Midwest, as well as conspiracy theories involving black helicopters and clandestine military projects. Urich's portrayal of Castle, a man teetering between skepticism and belief, reason and fear, earned him praise for his restrained yet compelling performance. Urich's foray into cinema came at a time when many television actors struggled to break into film. The early 1980s were dominated by megastars like Harrison Ford, Mel Gibson, and Sylvester Stallone, men who had carved their way into Hollywood through iconic roles and box office dominance. Urich, by contrast, was still considered a TV face, despite his undeniable talent. Nevertheless, his performance in Endangered Species signaled to both critics and casting agents that he possessed the range and screen presence to carry a feature-length film. MGM, encouraged by the reception, was interested in developing further projects around him, and Urich himself was enthusiastic about the opportunity to grow artistically. "I don't want to play the same character forever," he told People magazine in a 1982 interview. "I want to explore darker material, take some risks, even fail if I have to." Despite the promise shown in Endangered Species, Urich's film career would face hurdles. While he did land other movie roles, the majority of these projects failed to gain critical or commercial traction. Still, the experience proved invaluable. These films allowed Urich to experiment with different genres, from science fiction to action comedy to drama. Eventually, Urich would find his way back to television, where the medium had begun to evolve in his absence. Cable networks and premium channels were taking more creative risks, and the boundaries between film and TV were beginning to blur. When he returned in Spencer, or higher in 1980. He did so not as a retreating film actor, but as a seasoned performer who had proven his ability to thrive in multiple storytelling formats. But wait, this story is not Robert Urich's alone. Heather Menzies, Urich's career and early relationship with Robert Urich. Born on December 3, 1949 in Toronto, Ontario, Heather Menzies-Urich, who would later marry Robert Urich, was just 15 when she was cast in the role that would immortalize her in cinematic history, Louisa Von Trapp, in the 1965 classic The Sound of Music. Directed by Robert Wise and starring Julie Andrews and Christopher Plummer, the film became one of the highest-grossing movies of all time. And Heather, with her radiant screen presence and musical grace, was etched into the hearts of audiences worldwide. Following The Sound of Music, Menzies transitioned into adult roles, a path not easily navigated by child stars. By the 1970s, she had begun to find her stride in television, appearing in hit series such as Marcus Welby, MD, and later T.J. Hooker, both of which allowed her to demonstrate her versatility as an actress. However, it was her role as Jessica Six in the 1977 TV adaptation of Logan's Run that earned her cult fame. In the series, based on the 1976 film and the novel by William F. Nolan and George Clayton Johnson, Menzies portrayed a futuristic fugitive on the run in a dystopian society where life ends at age 30. With its sleek science fiction aesthetic and themes of rebellion and freedom, the series resonated with audiences. Her film career during this period was equally eclectic.
You told me once that you wanted children. Dad, I was a good child.
In 1966, she appeared in George Roy Hill's Hawaii, based on James A. Michener's sweeping novel of the same name, and later starred in the 1968 comedy How Sweet It Is, alongside Debbie Reynolds and James Garner. In 1978, she embraced the horror genre with a standout role in Joe Dante's Piranha, a film that would later gain notoriety as one of the more intelligent entries in the wave of creature features inspired by Jaws. She also appeared in the 1982 thriller Endangered Species, a film that would later connect to her husband's career. Menzies was not afraid to challenge perceptions or take risks in her career. One of the most notable examples was her decision to pose for Playboy in December 1973 in a pictorial titled Tender Trap. The title itself was a clever nod to both the famous Frank Sinatra song and her early association with The Sound of Music. But perhaps the most transformative moment in her life came in 1974 when she met Robert Urich on the set of a commercial. They were cast as a married couple, and the chemistry between them was immediate and undeniable. What began as scripted affection soon blossomed into real-life romance. Within a short time, they were inseparable. The couple married later that year. It was, by all accounts, a deeply loving and supportive partnership. From the moment I met Heather, I knew she was the one, Robert would later say. She had this warmth, this light around her that made everything better. Their marriage became one of the rare Hollywood love stories that endured. Not only did they share a life together, but they also worked together professionally. Heather made a memorable guest appearance on Vegas, the hit series that made Robert Urich a household name. The Urichs also collaborated in philanthropy. In later years, especially after Robert's diagnosis of synovial sarcoma in the late 1990s, Heather became an outspoken advocate for cancer research and awareness. She stood by him through years of treatment, offering courage and love during the most challenging moments of their lives. Following his passing in 2002, Heather established the Robert Urich Foundation to fund cancer research and support families affected by the disease. This now brings us to the first tragedy for the couple: Robert Urich's cancer journey and passing. In the mid-1990s, Robert Urich was first diagnosed with synovial sarcoma, a rare and aggressive form of soft tissue cancer. Over the course of 6 grueling years, Robert endured not one, but 3 separate cancer diagnoses. Despite the physical toll of his treatments, which included multiple surgeries, rounds of chemotherapy, and radiation therapy, he refused to let cancer define him or halt his work. Notably, during his treatment phases, he took on the role of host for the National Geographic documentary series On Assignment. The series allowed him to travel and report on environmental and cultural issues worldwide, showcasing his intellectual curiosity and deep commitment to storytelling beyond acting. In interviews during this time, Robert openly acknowledged the challenges but remained optimistic, famously stating, "Cancer may be a part of my life, but it won't be the headline." His personal life was deeply intertwined with the realities of his illness. Robert's son, Ryan Urich, who was in high school when his father's health began to decline, found himself thrust into the role of caregiver and emotional supporter. Ryan's adolescence, already a complex phase of life, was further complicated by witnessing his father's fight with cancer. The younger Urich showed remarkable maturity and compassion, often accompanying his father to treatment sessions and doing small but meaningful things to ease his father's pain and discomfort. The final years of Robert Urich's life were a mixture of hope and heartbreak. As his condition fluctuated, there were moments of improvement that brought relief and optimism, but ultimately, the cancer's persistence proved overwhelming. He passed away on April 16, 2002, at his home in Thousand Oaks, California, surrounded by family. His death occurred during a pivotal time in the lives of his children. Ryan, his son, for example, was just entering his early years of college. Following the actor's passing, Heather Menzies-Urich co-founded the Robert Urich Foundation to support research into synovial sarcoma and other rare cancers. The foundation continues to honor his memory by funding scientific research and providing support to families grappling with similar diagnoses. Heather Menzies-Urich had remained a pillar of strength during and after Robert's illness. She later reflected on their journey in interviews, emphasizing the profound lessons about love and resilience they learned together. "Robert taught me that no matter what life throws at you, you have to keep fighting, keep loving, and keep living," she said in a 2005 interview. Their partnership, which began with shared dreams and a deep connection, endured even through the darkest chapters. But another tragedy awaited the Urich family: Heather's advocacy and final years. After the death of her husband, Robert Urich, in 2002, Heather became a compelling voice in the fight against cancer, using her public platform to educate and inspire. Throughout the 2000s and 2010s, she spoke openly about the emotional and physical toll of cancer on patients and their families, emphasizing the importance of early detection, research funding, and holistic patient care. She often reflected on her and Robert's journey with candid sincerity. "We learned firsthand that cancer doesn't just attack the body. It touches every part of a person's life," she told People magazine in 2010. "Our goal is to ease that burden and bring hope through science and solidarity." Heather's own health, unfortunately, would soon echo the tragic narrative she fought so hard to change. In November 2017, she was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, a cruel twist of fate that mirrored the loss of her husband. Despite the devastating prognosis, Heather faced her illness with grace and courage, supported by her children and close friends. The final weeks of her life were spent surrounded by family at her home, where she found comfort in their presence and the legacy she had built. On December 24, 2017, Heather Menzies-Urich passed away at the age of 68. Her death marked the end of a remarkable life, defined by artistic achievement, love, and a fierce dedication to service. Despite the tragic ends of the Urich couple, the Urich family legacy has been commemorated in several meaningful ways. In 2003, Robert Urich was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, located at 7083 Hollywood Boulevard. Beyond memorials and public honors, the Urich family's philanthropic spirit lives on through the Robert and Heather Urich Fund for Sarcoma Research at the University of Michigan. This fund, co-founded by the couple during their lifetime, reflects their commitment to combating the very disease that affected Robert. By supporting cutting-edge sarcoma research, the fund continues to drive advancements that could save lives and improve patient outcomes worldwide. It stands as a living legacy of their shared hope and determination. Besides this, there is another living legacy of the couple: their children's lives and careers. The lives of Robert and Heather Urich's children reveal a deeply rooted legacy of compassion, resilience, and service, values instilled by their parents and lived out in very personal, meaningful ways. Ryan Urich, the eldest, offers a vivid example of how the Urich family's influence shaped both career and character. Initially drawn to the arts, Ryan followed in his parents' footsteps with early acting roles in productions such as Night Walk in 1986 and The Killer Inside in 1994. Yet, it was the shadow of his father's long and painful battle with cancer that profoundly redirected Ryan's path. Witnessing Robert's courageous fight firsthand sparked a calling to medicine, ultimately leading Ryan to specialize as an infectious disease physician. He established his medical career in New Mexico, dedicating himself to combating complex illnesses and improving patient outcomes. Emily Urich, the couple's second child, embraced a similarly healing vocation. Motivated perhaps by family experiences and a desire to serve others in moments of acute need, Emily pursued nursing and today works as an emergency room nurse. Her role on the front lines of healthcare demands quick thinking, empathy, and resilience, qualities that her parents exemplified throughout their lives. Emily's work allows her to directly touch lives during some of their most vulnerable hours, upholding the family's tradition of care and dedication. Though she maintains a lower public profile than her famous parents, Emily's daily commitment to saving lives speaks volumes about the values imparted by Robert and Heather. The youngest of the Urich siblings, Allison Grady Urich, has largely remained out of the public eye. She is regarded within the family as a steady presence, contributing in quieter ways to maintaining the strong bonds that have long defined the Urich family dynamic. Together, the siblings form a tight-knit unit, one that honors their parents' legacy not only through career choices, but also through their active involvement with the Robert Urich Foundation. This organization continues to fuel cancer research and patient support, serving as a living testament to the values Robert and Heather fought to uphold. At the heart of the Urich family story is the remarkable approach Robert and Heather took toward parenting. Robert Urich, in particular, was known for his nurturing style, a choice of empathy and understanding over strict discipline. Far from a distant or authoritarian figure, Robert engaged deeply with his children's emotional lives, creating a home environment rich in love and mutual respect. Ryan often recalls with warmth how his father's calm and supportive demeanor shaped his upbringing. Even during moments of discipline, Robert prioritized connection and compassion, reinforcing a sense of security that endured through the family's many challenges. Ryan has shared anecdotes highlighting how Robert's gentle guidance extended even into the darkest days of his illness. "Dad never let cancer define who he was to us," Ryan said in a 2015 interview. "He remained the same steady, loving presence, always focused on making sure we felt safe and supported." Heather, too, was a pillar of strength and care, both as a mother and an advocate. Her journey through ovarian cancer and later brain cancer reflected the family's shared commitment to resilience and hope. Though Robert and Heather have passed, their legacy thrives vividly through their children's lives and careers. The couple's story, as reflected through their children, is ultimately one of enduring love, resilience, and service. It is a narrative that moves beyond the spotlight of Hollywood into the profoundly human realms of healing and compassion. Through Ryan, Emily, and Allison, the Urich legacy continues to inspire.
My roots are in these kind of little communities, with people want to work every day.
Ryan poignantly summarized this by saying, "Mom and Dad taught us that life is about more than just what happens to you. It's about how you respond, how you love, and how you help others along the way." Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Did you like this video? If you did, please consider liking, dropping a comment, and hitting the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on our new uploads. Also, don't miss this video you see on your screen right now. It's truly unbelievable.